Welcome to the second and final part of the JR50 restoration. If you didn't watch the first episode, just a little recap. This is a Suzuki JR50. I want to say it's a 97, and it's just a tiny little 50cc two-stroke single gear dirt bike. It's for children. I wouldn't even call it a pit bike. And all we're doing is fixing and flipping it. I got all the parts in for the JR50. I'm just going to show you the part numbers real quick. That way I don't have to do it each time I install one of the things. It just makes it easier this way. So start off, that's the throttle cable part number, that's the carb bowl gasket, that's the rear brake linkage, this is the choke lever, brake lever part number, side case cover, you're not going to be able to read that, but that's the drain plug, the left hand grip, cushion for the chain, the air filter, cylinder head, gasket, and then lastly the plug. A majority of this came from a Suzuki parts dealer. Some of it came from another website. In case those websites don't exist, I figured it'd be easier to show you the part numbers, that way you can look them up in the future. I'm not going to install everything right yet, just going to do a couple things. That way I can get these off my bench. A little nylon nut goes on the bottom. I can adjust that more once I can ride it. So here's the left-hand grip. I'm not sure what's happened. It looks like it started deteriorating and someone put RTV on it. Also looks like there's RTV underneath it. Either way, I'm just gonna cut it off. I don't really feel like playing any stupid games with it being glued on there. Get some brake clean on that. Hopefully that's enough to slip it on. Okay, I can tighten that down and be good to go. Another thing I did off camera was I ground down where the steering stop was, where someone had just used a Sawzall and cut it off, and it was really rough. I just ground it down and put a coat of paint on it, and then over on the coil bracket that someone had Sawzalled, I welded that as well, and then put a coat of paint on that as well to protect it. The plug is just a 13/16, and the head is just held on with 4 10 mils. And the torque spec of these, I'm not sure yet, but I will let you know when it comes to tightening it. Are we going to take bets on what this looks like inside when I pop the head off? I can't actually tell yet. That's actually really clean. There's even a portion where there's no carbon on the piston. There's a little bit of dirt, a little bit of ring ridge, but I can still see the cross hatching. So yeah, I'm just gonna clean this up, clean up the head as well, and then re-oil the cylinder walls, put Marvel in it and spin it a bunch of times until I'm convinced there's no more dirt in the rings, and then we'll be good to go and slap it back together with the new gasket. I've got it all cleaned up and oiled, just about ready to be reassembled. Just gotta make sure everything's nice and sterile. And then the torque spec for the head bolts is somewhere between 6.5 and 8 foot-pounds, depending on who you ask on the internet. So we're gonna go in the middle of that. Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and swap this bushing here. It's just a little cushion for the chain, but you can see here, there are nice grooves cut into it because the chain was loose this whole time. So I'm just gonna unbolt the swing arm. This is a 17 mil, and then the nut on the other side is a 14 mil. And given how grimy and disgusting everything is on this bike, chances are it's gonna fight me the whole way. No, wait, look at that. Just kidding, I stand corrected. I'll just slide on there. I'm gonna clean this all up real quick, and then we get to go. This was super easy. It's really unnecessary, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull this kickstand apart and clean it, because if you listen to it, it's just super gritty, and I can fix that really easily. So I'm just gonna take the 5 minutes and clean it up real quick. And now, no more grinding, which is great. It's just one of those things that there's no reason to really do that aside from just making sure all the components work. Before I take it off the bench here, I just wanted to mention that I pulled the petcock off and cleaned it up, and it had gray Play-Doh in it. The whole thing was crammed full of some sort of pasty matter. It took a while to clean up, and hopefully it doesn't leak because I didn't replace the seals in it, but it does work now, so that's good. Okay, I think that's about as stripped down as I'm going to bother to get it. Now it's just a matter of cleaning up everything. If you haven't seen these before, these are awesome. They're little needle files. There's all different sizes. So these are a lifesaver when it comes to cleaning out all the little passages in all of these little jets. I think this was like $2 or $3 online. So those are awesome. Definitely get a set. But yeah, I'm not going to film cleaning everything because it's super straightforward. I got everything cleaned up. At least I'm pretty happy with it. The top of the carb and the bowl got soaked in carb cleaner and the rest of it just got cleaned by hand. So we should be good at this point. Just got to reassemble it now. A couple of the jets on the emulsion tube here, the really tiny holes, which I don't know what they do. A couple of those were clogged. And then there was one other jet that was a little clogged. But they're good now, and that's all that matters. I don't know why it is. Both these little arms have notches for on and off, but there doesn't seem to be a corresponding nub on the carb to lock it in place. Oh, okay, so there was, and it was a spring, it looks like. The ball that's supposed to be here, there's a spring here, but no corresponding check ball to lock in place. So I'll see if I can find one lying around. If not, I don't know what I'm gonna do about that, because I'm pretty sure that was missing before me doing anything. Now it looks like I'm missing that. So what I'll do is I will just bolt this back together for now with the spring out. That way I don't lose that as well. And we'll see if I can find a ball to go in there. I may have to order it. I'm sure I can find the factory part, but I'd be paying $6 to ship something that surely isn't more than $1 or $2. I'm just gonna slap the air filter back on. I have the new filter here, but I'm not really sure what all is happening here. Do I just jam this in here? Just like that and hope it works? Or do I trim it? I don't understand. This is stupid. I don't know. I'll figure that out later. For now, I'm just gonna get the carb remounted. You can kind of see it there, but it is all hooked up now. I think the twist throttle assembly needs to be taken apart again and cleaned because it's pretty sticky in its operation. At least we're most of the way there right now. Like, it does function. So that's good. I went ahead and got the gas tank installed. I had to cut some new bushings for the rubber mounts just because I was missing some of them. And also I ran it with proper sized fuel line. The line I had on it previously was 1/4 inch, and that's not really the right size. It should be 3/16. So I have it run with proper sized line now. Next step is the rear wheel. But before I do that, I'm going to show you real quick. The front fender, I don't know if I mentioned it, but the outer layer of the plastic was deteriorated where I could like scratch it off with my fingernail, and there was no saving it. So what I did is I sanded it off. Firstly, I used I think it was 320 grit, and the actual transition from the destroyed surface to the original surface is like right here, and you like can't really tell at this point. I know it's there and I can see it's there because I'm looking for it. I ended up doing 320, 400, 800, and then 1500, and then just a plastic polish, and it's come up pretty well. So hopefully that holds up, and the rest of the plastics just got polished. They didn't need to be sanded. I just wanted to show you that. I got the rear wheel back. It has new spokes, has a new tube, and it's good to go. So now I can go ahead and slap it back in the frame. And also I got the new arm mounted on the brake drum. Now I'll proceed to spend an hour trying to mount this rear wheel, and we'll cuss and be mad that I can't get it to stay on the frame and keep the frame balanced and get everything lined up. And now it's stuck. That's good. I got the chain all finished up. Like I said before, I soaked it in degreaser for like 5 days. Then I took it out of that and brushed it with a wire brush and compressed air. And then I let it soak in Marvel for another like several days. And now it moves nice and freely. Okay, so it's all on now. And like I said, I just pulled it out of a bath of Marvel Mystery Oil. So it's been soaking for a while. So there's still a lot of oil in it. So it's probably gonna sling, but that's okay. I'm happy I removed only one link because it like barely fits with one link removed. And right now the tire's all the way forward. So I'll put the master link in and then we can tension it up so that way it's no longer touching the frame. And we have the new cushion there, so that's all good. Oh, that's already really tight. Make sure that's center. Okay, that's good. In case you're following along at home, the two shorter bolts go right here and the longer one goes in the front. And I lost my screwdriver. But other than that, we are getting close. Okay, the fender's in place, but as I mentioned when I first bought it, there's also supposed to be a spacer that goes in the fender itself so you don't crack the plastic when you tighten it down. So I'm gonna have to make a spacer to go on the other side. And that's pretty easy. I have a bunch of spare spacers. I just have to find one the right size and trim it down to size. So really easy, just wanted to make mention that.
kill switch works. Everything seems to work. It lugs off the line, like you can feel it and hear it, where you can definitely tell you're starting in second. It has like no torque down low. This thing's so stupid, I love it. Up at the top end, but every so often it picks back up, so the mixture's probably a little off, especially since we messed with the jets. Probably wouldn't hurt to adjust the carb a little bit, but I'm not gonna bother because it runs, so I don't think it's even 20 miles an hour. It kind of feels like 17 or 18, but since you're so low and this thing's so missized, it feels faster just because it's sketchier. Anyways, cut it off here. Alright, so firstly, I'm a little pissed that the GoPro was super low angle-wise. I had it on my helmet, and just today decided to not cooperate with the app, so I couldn't double check how it looked on my head while riding. So most of my footage is staring at the ground. But I did get to ride around today. It ran pretty well. It's slow, but I did get a good bit of running time in it, and it was happy and it seemed to be running well. And I didn't really find any issues aside from the brakes being too soft, as in I need to tighten them up, which I have done. What's gonna happen now is I'm gonna drain the fluid out of it. I've got a fresh, clean container to put it in because I'm going to reuse it, because what I'm going to do now is take the side cover off, cut the gear selector, and even though I'm going to be careful about it, metal is going to get into the oil. So I'm going to put the used oil in it, run it for just a couple minutes, and then change it again. So I don't want to do that while also putting fresh oil in again, just to not waste it. And since the oil is pretty fresh, I'm going to put it in a clean container and then just hold on to it. Looks pretty good. I definitely see some black in there, but not bad. It's still fairly clear. I think that's about as trained as it's gonna get. Oh, that's cool. Just drop the drain plug in the oil. Good. The oil plug is in here somewhere. I take that back. The oil doesn't look that great. It's only gonna be in there for another couple minutes, so I'm not worried about it. I'm not sure if anyone's ever shown you how to do this, but if you just do a little quick doodle of whatever you're taking apart, mark the holes and then punch out the holes and put each bolt in as you take it out, it's like impossible to mix up where they go. So we have the gear selector, and it just hangs out right there. So that'll be a pain to line up once it comes time to put it back together. It looks really good in here. I may remove more of the oil drive while I'm at it because it's right here. Actually really sterile, so I'm really happy with it. This gasket can come off because we have a new one. But yeah, just a matter of cleaning it up, and then I think the foot peg needs to come off in order to get access to the gear selector right here. This may not look like much, but I have the engine all wrapped up as much as I care to have it done. I'm gonna just cut this out to mimic how it is on the other side. So it really shouldn't take too much effort. And once I'm happy with it and this gear selector can move to the other position, then I'll turn the camera back on and just show it being done. I don't wanna film it because it's probably gonna look pretty unprofessional, and also I'm not a really big fan of time lapses. So we'll just cut to it being done. Well, that wasn't as smooth as I thought it was going to be. In any case, I got it cut out here. I'm not super happy with it, but it's good enough and it should switch into the other gear. I had to put a little arm and spring back on it so that actually like latches into each gear, but it should have enough space to move over there. So just a little test real quick. So it's in neutral. So if you move it downward, it should go into second. Okay, so that's right. Now it's in gear. So back to neutral. And then if we move it up one, it should go into first. Okay, so it did select a gear and it does move. So that first gear is there now and is operational, which is awesome. So literally this mod took, let's say 30 minutes to be super conservative and cost me like $12 because of the gaskets. Why would you not do this? Because the gear is already there. All right, just to recap, I have it all back together. It's all tightened down. It's got new gaskets. I put the used fresh oil back in it, except for like the bottom layer because it was like some crap that had separated while the oil was sitting. About 10% of the oil is fresh. I didn't reuse the really nasty stuff. But other than that, we're good to go. All I'm gonna do now is ride around, make sure everything works, make sure the gears work, get up the temperature, and then change the oil again. If you're watching for informational purposes, when you slap this back together, the Kickstarter won't really work properly. And by not really work properly, I mean there won't really be any sort of spring tension. There'll be nothing that brings the Kickstarter back up to where it needs to be, and there's nothing to stop the Kickstarter from spinning 360. What needs to happen is, you can see there's a bolt here. This bolt is the stopper for the kickstart. So what you have to do is you have to take this out, rotate the Kickstarter shaft until you can see there's a little ear on the Kickstarter shaft that has to pass where this bolt goes. Then you install the bolt, and that way the Kickstarter has a fixed end position. And then it obviously works like it should. You can probably get away with not doing that.
Oh, can't keep up. That's all it's got. So slow. Every so often, like at the top end, you'll hear it in a second. Like it's still increasing RPM, increasing, still increasing RPM, and then sometimes it keeps building, and sometimes it does that. It breaks up. The first gear is definitely a big improvement. Like, I'm giving only a little blips of throttle input, and I definitely need it. If I was doing the same thing in second, it would just be bogging. Alright, so it's done. There's still small adjustments I need to make, but I'm not going to film it or even talk about it because it's really easy stuff. The market seems to be pretty slow, so I may end up having it for a little while, so you may see in the background of other videos, but it's all good. We'll make money either way. With all that being said, thanks for watching and stay tuned. I already wrapped up the video, and when I was cleaning up, I realized I had leftover hardware. I don't know where it goes or why there's extra, but I guess that means we just improved it. Whoops.